Previously on the business.
Let's turn our attention straight away to our first interview this morning. It's something that I am still a little bit in the dark about. I mean, we've all heard about BEE, and we've all heard about how it's working / not working in our country. Broad-based black economic empowerment is somewhat of a contentious issue, and it's something that I think a lot of South Africans know about, but they don't know terribly much about it. And recently, the codes of good practice have been amended. The BEE codes are changing, and they're changing in ways which we'd like to find out about. So let's welcome Keith Livingstone onto the show. Keith, first of all, a very warm welcome to you, and thank you for joining us on The Business this morning.
Thank you very much, Ian. Good morning to you.
Good morning to you. I know that your time is limited. Let's get straight to the point. BEE has been around for a good few years. It's nothing new. It's something that every small, medium, and large business needs to factor into their practice every day. Just talk us through, before today and before these new codes, talk us up to now about the general basics of BEE. How does it all work, Keith?
Yeah. It was issued in terms of the act that came out in 2003, which is 10 years ago. In 2007, the original codes of good practice came out, so that's 6 years ago. What they wanted is for companies to contribute in some way towards solving, in a small way, some of the problems that we perceive to have in this country. And that's why they called it broad-based black economic empowerment, to cover various aspects of society, the economy, and the company. So what they asked companies to do, for example, was to spend a little bit of money on social development or charity. They wanted bigger companies to help smaller companies, black-owned companies, relating to something called enterprise development. They also wanted to try and encourage us to help those smaller companies to grow by maybe procuring from them, and also asking all companies to obtain a B certificate, which means that everybody would be doing the same thing. They also would like us to spend a bit more money and time and effort on training of our staff. And black staff in particular, because those are the people who have been most disadvantaged. We also do look at other areas, or what they call elements, like your employment equity, and look at the percentage or the ratios of black management to white management, and that's improving nicely, but it is still fairly poor. We also look at the last area, which is maybe the contentious issue, is have companies sold shares in their business to black participants as well. But those are, roughly speaking, the 7 elements on which you're going to earn points. And the reason you want to earn points is your customers themselves are asking you for a B certificate, because the customers themselves are going to improve their own score by having purchases from their own suppliers who have a good B score. So it's a bit of a cascading effect. Everybody asks everybody else for a scorecard. It's been an easy task for most companies so far.
It is open to massive abuse, is it not?
It has been. There is a lot of, it's called fronting, and a lot of companies are producing forged or fake certificates, pretending to have ownership when they don't have, pretending to promote a black person, which is quite simply abuse. To do things like that to another human being is really, really bad. But it has been done, sadly, it has been done that way. The new act that is about to be gazetted, as well as obviously the new codes that have now come into effect, are making this a criminal offense. So, somebody can go to jail for up to 10 years for fronting.
What does it mean in terms of your business being BEE compliant? You mentioned that you get extra work, you get extra, you get the ability to do business with people who are looking to raise their profiles, their BEE points ratings. But what else does it mean? I mean, are you finding that smaller, medium-sized businesses are getting more work because of BEE certificates, and those people who aren't compliant are missing out? Is that a trend?
I'm seeing that to a large extent, Ian. We do see that companies, obviously within the particular different industries. So if you sell to a consumer, the consumer isn't really concerned about your particular B score. But large companies are setting down their requirements. So if you want to do business with a large bank or a large cell phone company, they will say if you don't have a B certificate, and BE certificates are measured in what we call levels. So the best certificate is a level 1. Maybe the not so best is a level 8. And some of these cell phone companies and banks and other large enterprises are saying if you can't get to a level 4, we don't want to do business with you. The positive is a company who can get to the level 4, which is incredibly easy to achieve. They are getting lots and lots more business, and we've done our own research and seen how many companies are getting so much more business. Basically, a B certificate equals profits. As long as we can take the emotional issue away, which obviously I understand that many people have, and an emotional issue, to me, there's no emotional issue about giving a small donation to a university so that its staff or its students can get a small bursary to continue doing their studying. That's actually something nice to do.
Sure.
Boards themselves have got your what's the thing that Darren does every Thursday?
The Winds of Change.
The Winds of Change. Sorry, That's the right one. That isn't done to earn BE points. It's simply done for to be nice about something, and that's if many companies do it with the right spirit and the right way, there is no emotional issue around this whatsoever. And yes, it equals business without any doubt in the hands of many, many companies.
Keith, what about the new changes? There have been some amendments. You mentioned just now that it is now going to become a criminal act to front when it comes to the BEE code. What are some of the other changes which have happened in the last few weeks?
What they've really done is made BE a little bit more difficult to achieve. Many companies managed to get to the higher levels, the level 1s and level 2s and level 3s. So they've, in a way, downgraded everything to make it a little bit more difficult to get to those level 1s. The targets are slightly more difficult. So, for example, in one case, the B codes would ask you to spend up to 3% of your payroll on training of its black employees. They now are wanting to up a particular number to 6% of your payroll, which is a fairly high number. So those are the major changes, that everything has become just a little bit more difficult, not impossible to achieve, but just slightly more difficult with the intention that people are going to be doing just a little bit more than they previously were doing anyway. And I think I would just like to make a point that BEE isn't seen as a magic bullet or golden bullet to solve the world's problems. We're not going to solve South Africa's problems. We're going to solve anything, but the small number of companies who have complied are making a small difference. Some charities are benefiting because companies are choosing to spend some money with them. Other black-owned companies are beginning to grow, and we need black industrialists. We need to grow our economy. And in the end, we actually aren't competing against other companies in Johannesburg or Cape Town, but against the rest of the world, against Chinese companies, Japanese companies.
Keith, Jacob Zuma did a speech last week. I stand under correction, but I think it was last week at WITS. And one of the things that he mentioned in his speech was BEE and the end of BEE, so to speak. And he bandied a figure about of the year 2020. Let's just talk about the outcome of that. Is that something that is being factored in? Is there a time frame for BEE and these codes to be implemented, and then kind of a phasing out plan where the country should be in a position where the shift of power is more sort of representative of South Africa's population?
Yeah, there isn't an official date that says BEE will stop, and the Act doesn't have a cancellation date at the moment. It does say that the minister should reevaluate it every year, and every 10 years it should be looked at. We would love nothing more. Now, my business is, of course, being a consultant, but I'd love nothing more than to find that the country is so perfect that a lot of the inequities and inequalities have been removed, and that they can actually just dissolve BEE because it serves no more purpose, because we have achieved all our objectives. All the population in this country has pretty much equal opportunities and abilities and wealth and skills, etc. So, if that's going to be achieved by 2020, I don't know. It's going to take a long time, because BEE isn't the only policy that is going to make this country perfect. it might take a lot longer, Ian, before we can actually, they could actually say remove it, but maybe they will remove it quite soon. It would be nice to remove BEE because we've achieved most of our objectives on it.
Sure.
I'd love nothing more than to close my business down and do something else like broadcast from your studios rather than having to do a conference like I am doing today.
Keith, I know your time's limited, so I'm going to be quick. I just quickly want to ask you a few more questions, and then we'll say goodbye. Sure. First of all, we're competing massively with the outside world. China is a global player. They're just doing everything. Every time you turn over a product and have a look at the back of it, it's Chinese. We know that's a thing. The South African market has to compete with imports and the Chinese market. How are we faring when it comes to this added extra, if you like, red tape of BEE? Surely that's something that's slowing progress down when you compare it against a country like China, who's just, they're so together and they're so productive.
Yeah, well, look, you're so right in that we have to compete with other countries throughout the world. I don't see that BEE is going to harm the economy in any way. In fact, the idea is to grow the economy. But there is I usually talk about BEE as a slight admin irritation. There's so many other laws and acts in this country, many of which I agree with, and some I might not, as any citizen would, that are maybe a lot more onerous than BEE. BEE has got maybe an unfair reputation as being such a big law or a big regulation, and it has such a small effect. And there's so little work that needs to be done on BEE compared to, say, health and safety and labor and all the other laws that we've got. Mm. So, yes, obviously every little law makes a difference. Putting a new stop street in front of your house is going to slow you down going to the office, but it's not going to make a big difference to your overall life. And BEE should be seen. As much as obviously I'll make it out to be a big deal because it's very important to me, it's only has a very small impact, even in the life of many businesses. Most of the people who would complain about BEE, and many of them do, have never actually implemented it and don't have any understanding of what it is. It turns out that most companies are already compliant and they could go and get a certificate without having to do anything because they tend to do the right thing anyway. So it's a very, very small, a far smaller aspect than we would tend to make it out.
Okay, that leads me nicely onto my second last question, which is if you're a small or business or a freelancer. A lot of us in our industry are freelancers. We're sort of one person businesses. How does that work with BEE? Do we get certificates as well? How does that all work?
Yeah, you actually do. What they've recognized is that companies, based on their size and actually their turnover or revenue, would need to be rated in a different way. So, for example, one of the very nice features of the new amended codes is that any person, organization, company whose annual turnover is less than 10 million rand, which makes it a fairly sizable company, is automatically compliant. You need to do absolutely nothing. If your client says to you, Ian, do you have a B certificate? All you need to do is say, my turnover is below 10 million rand. I'm automatically compliant, and I'm automatically level 4. And you wouldn't say it, you would maybe get your auditor or accountant to write you such a letter, right, or you would get a sworn affidavit and you would write that letter. So all small companies are so automatically compliant that they don't have a problem. In fact, I think a lot of people who are condemning BEE are actually compliant because they don't even realize it.
Right. Okay, well, there are so many more questions which need to be answered. I know a lot of people who might be listening to this now are going, well, I've got a question. I'd like to know from you. You're very involved in the whole BEE setup and all of the codes and the practices, etc. Where can we get hold of you? What's the website where we can point our browsers to just to go and find out more and perhaps get ourselves compliant?
Well, the best place then would be our website, which is www.econobee, that's one word, econobee.co.za.
Okay, fantastic. econobee.co.za. That is Keith Livingstone from Econobee, talking about the new amended codes of good practice. Listen, Keith, it sounds as though you've got the BEE thing wrapped up. Can you try and work on the e-tolls next, please?
That's a little bit more difficult, but yes, I'll do what I can.
Good luck with the rest of the conference. I thank you for your time today, sir.
Thank you so much, and thanks to you as well.
Cheers. Take care. Bye-bye.
Yeah,
There
bye.
you go. That is Keith Livingstone, the MD of Econo BEE.
Yeah. And they're holding a whole lot of one-day seminars at the moment, and that's what he was talking about. And if you want to go check it out on their website, if BEE directly affects you or your business, log into their website, check out their conferences, and go and sit in on a day one.
It is interesting as well for a lot of people, as he mentioned, who actually fall within the compliance framework, and they don't even know it. You know, a lot of people moan going, oh, well, I don't know what to do. And but go and have a look on the website. You might be able to find out more about exactly where you stand. And if your business is not BEE rated, you might want to go and check it out at econobee.co.za. As Keith mentioned, you might just surprise yourself.
The Business. Weekdays 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. on balls.co.za. Brought to you by FNB Business Banking.